for joining us. I'm joined here by Craig Shaw, who's CEO of Broome International Airport. So Craig, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks very much, Holly. Nice to be here.
So firstly, how has your recovery been post-pandemic?
Recovery's actually been quite strong. We were fortunate that during the COVID period, actually Broome and Perth was the second highest, busiest route in Australia, behind Brisbane and Cairns. So effectively Perth and WA shut off to themselves, and we had a captive market during that time. So everybody had somewhere to visit, and it was only Broome pretty much for Perth.
Yeah.
So we're now at 108% of our pre-pandemic numbers.
Fantastic. And I understand that you have quite a unique ownership structure. You're what you would describe as family owned. Can you just say a few words about that?
Yes, certainly we are a family business, but we don't operate like a family business necessarily. It's a bit more sophisticated than that. We've got a couple of independent directors as well as some of the family members that represent the board. It's good because we have very agile decision making and get things done quite quickly. So it's been great. They're a good group of people to work with, and I'm very fortunate to have them as our board.
Super interesting. And of course, despite being a town of only 15,000 people, you now have international flights. So tell us more about this achievement.
Yes, it's a wonderful achievement. We're very excited about it. Obviously, having our Singapore connection, our flights kick off again on Tuesday next week. That'll be the second season of that service. It's a fuller season for this year. It starts at the beginning of April and runs through to the end of October. 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Saturdays. Very well supported from an outbound point of view. The community's been very keen to have this connection for some time now. It's been a long-held aspiration for both the community and our shareholders. We're very keen also to see the inbound from Singapore and further afield, the connection through Singapore to Europe and the UK as well.
And tell us about Broome as a destination. What is there to do there?
Oh, there's lots to do in Broome. It's not just Broome, but it's the wider Kimberley. So the Kimberley region is fairly iconic. There's places like the Horizontal Falls. There's Cable Beach. You can ride a camel on the sunset in Cable Beach, which is 22 kilometres of white sandy beach. You can imagine the Outback meeting the aqua blue ocean. That's where I get the fortunate opportunity to live, and it's a wonderful place for everybody to visit.
Sounds fantastic. So how is the airport working to minimise its environmental impact, especially in such a remote and ecologically sensitive region?
Well, given the nature of where you're right, where we live, obviously we're quite it's front of mind in terms of the nature of some of the weather events that occur. We get a condition in terms of cyclones, obviously, in our part of the world. Quite often, fortunately, we brew up the cyclones and send them further south beyond where we are, not necessarily into us, thank goodness. But fortunately, where they come in typically is in an uninhabited area, so it's quite good in the WA from that point of view. We've done a lot of work in terms of solar installations across the airport. We've halved our electricity grid usage and halved our carbon footprint as a result. We're at ACA level 2 at this point in time. We're aiming for level 3 plus within the next 2 years, so it's quite ambitious in terms of our carbon neutrality, and we're very excited about that prospect as well.
And of course, you mentioned it, but you recently approved plans to install 400 kilowatts of solar on your car park structures at the airport. So do you have any other plans around renewable energy?
At this stage, we're looking at electrifying fleet, and we've obviously got to work with our other providers on the airport in terms of third-party provisions and how we get them to reduce their footprint as well. So that'll be the next stage for us, working with the other partners on airport and seeing what we can do in terms of our electrification fleet as well.
And of course, you also mentioned cyclones. It's been quite sobering to see the tropical cyclone that hit Queensland and New South Wales recently. So what features are you building into your infrastructure and resilience plans to kind of build resilience for climate change?
A good question, Holly. Obviously, as I mentioned, we're kind of used to it in that part of the world. Being in the tropics, we expect to see those sorts of events over the course of each year. All of our buildings are built to certain wind standards that obviously meet the requirements in the event of cyclones. Unfortunately, I haven't had to live through one yet in that part of the world. We have had some ex-tropical cyclones come over and dump quite a lot of rain on top of us. So we're fortunate also that a lot of the water gets away quite quickly, and so from that perspective, we're pretty good. We are doing some work in terms of preparing for maybe future inundation as a result of sea level rises, that type of thing. So there's some consultation work underway currently on that front.
And I mean, when you're looking at future sea rises, is your airport going to be safe, or?
Yeah, we're fortunate that we're pretty high up in terms of the sea levels at this point. So we think that's not going to be a major issue. Parts of the town do we have large tides, so interesting in terms of our part of the world, we can have up to 11-meter difference in tides.
Wow.
So you can imagine on a very large tide, even at that point, we see some water coming into some parts of our downtown centre. So we have to be careful and mindful of those sorts of things, and we're making sure we're prepared for those sort of events in the future.
And how does the airport manage its relationship with the surrounding environment as well as the indigenous land custodians?
We've got a very great relationship with the Yaru people, who are the custodians of the land where the airport's based. We have an MOU in place with Yaru to develop more indigenous employment in terms of our workforce, as well as adopt a great sense of place in terms of our community. So we have a fair bit of indigenous artwork in terms of our arrival terminal. They actually have 6 seasons in our part of the world, and each of those seasons is represented by a certain type of animal or some other type of figure. So we have each of those images across our arrivals terminal, and we're putting more information around that currently inside the terminal as well. Beyond that, we've got other JV opportunities that we're working with them, which is land-related and development-related activities as well.
Lovely. So what challenges are you facing this year?
Challenges, I guess there's a range of challenges mainly related to sustaining what we have. We have quite a diverse range of economics within Broome. We have an oil and gas presence there as well, so we have probably the largest heliport in the southern hemisphere, making sure that we can sustain and support the oil and gas needs as they develop across over the course of this year and coming years. There's some future projects that are on the cusp that we're waiting to see the outcome from. Outside of that, we've got making sure we're good corporate citizens, we're making sure that we're working with our community. We have a very large sponsorship program, so we ensure that we're investing wisely in terms of growing community, in terms of sporting clubs and other social and community activities. So not so much on the challenges front, but opportunities, I guess, in terms of big opportunities around developing and growing Broome. And we want to be a big supporter in terms of the development of the region. Obviously, what's good for the region is good for the airport.
And what are the biggest challenges for regional airports in Australia?
The biggest challenge really would be sustaining capital and capital investment. The regional airports can range anything from a Gold Coast airport, which has 6 million passengers, through to a small Shire-owned council airport, which would be quite a small airport. So making sure that there's adequate capital funding to be able to grow the capacity required for each of those airports. The other complexity beyond that is the growing sophistication of the security requirements related to airport land, and that's continuing. We've had a recent event in Avalon in Melbourne, which has triggered a bit of extra activity and interest in terms of that security front as well. So as that complexity grows, we have to make sure we can meet that need as well.
And have you made changes to your own security plans as a result of that incident in Avalon?
We're fortunate that we're actually well advanced in that space. We already have quite a lot of work in terms of ensuring we protect our perimeter, our boundary of the airport. We've just installed some new fence monitoring detection systems. So we're ahead of the game, I guess, in terms of that aspect.
Yeah. What is your vision for Broome Airport over the next 5 to 10 years?
Vision for the airport? Well, I guess the key thing for me is consolidating our international service that we have to Singapore. We're still working with the Border Force agencies to develop their needs in terms of that terminal configuration. Beyond that, we want to make sure we can secure some additional connections to the East Coast. And hopefully we're able to do that. We're having some good meetings here as part of routes to achieve those types of outcomes. Beyond that, it's making sure that we've got some terminal development activity, particularly in terms of our departure, to support growing capacity needs as well.
And which other destinations do you think your local inhabitants want to travel to apart from Singapore?
The number one is probably Bali, to be honest.
Yes.
And in reality, we're only about an hour and 3/4 away from Bali in terms of flight time. So we're probably the closest airport in terms of the northwest of Australia to the proximity of Bali as a destination. We'll get Singapore sorted and nailed down first before we look at anything more beyond that. But that's probably the next destination that our local people would be keen to visit anyway.
And finally, if you could introduce one major change or innovation at the airport, what would it be?
There's lots more that we want to do at the airport, but particularly in terms of innovation in the check-in hall. So at this stage, we're looking at how we could make it a bit more self-service oriented, move into the backdrop space and kiosk, which a lot of other airports have already done. But for us, it's about creating efficiency in terms of capital and making sure that we're making best use of the square metres that we have inside our existing terminal. We're also implementing CT, hopefully in the near future as well, to improve the flow of passengers through the terminal and improve the passenger experience as well, where you don't have to pull all your stuff out of the bag before you come through security. Beyond that, we want to do a fair bit of work in terms of people with special needs that are coming through the terminal. So we've got some exciting things coming in that regard as well, so stay tuned for that.
Craig, that was my final question. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Ali.